Some stories aren't just stories, they're prison cells. They trap your voice in a memory, your soul in a sentence, and your truth in a silence that nobody wants to hear. This is one of those stories. When love became the lie I swore to protect. When justice forgot my name. And when freedom came too late. I walked straight out of one cave. Into another. And he never saw any of it coming. They told me I'd get out on a Tuesday. 1645 days after I was convicted. 2,340, 7 letters I never tore up. 13 I love you calls. 5 birthdays missed, including his 40th. I stepped out of that gray building at 7:02 a.m. Still felt like I wore bars on my spine. Still wore the same name, but it no longer felt mine. They called me Trina James. Mother. Wife. Felon. What they never called me was innocent. I took the blame for something I didn't do. Not for the system's sake, but for his, Daniel. My husband. The man I said yes to at 22. The man who promised forever, even while handing me forged documents behind a business we thought we owned. He said, I can't go in, my career, my clients. I looked him in the eyes and said, I'll fix this. I didn't fix anything. I just left myself behind. They offered me 10 years. I served 5 with good behavior. Every single day I told myself, he's waiting, he'll be there. So the day I walked out, wearing a brown tote bag and release paper smiles, my first stop wasn't to my family. It was to him. His last message said he visited, once, maybe twice, but he stopped coming when things got too emotional. He never told me he was sick. He never told me he died. I found out through a roommate on the last week of my sentence. No letter. No final goodbye. Just the word, funeral happened last year. So I went straight to the cemetery. The grass was damp. The sky didn't care about me. I found his name carved into silence. Daniel A. James, 1978-2023, beloved husband. My breath froze. That was supposed to be our future. Vacations, gray hair, the house with the blue door. Turns out, he buried me first. I dropped to my knees at the stone and whispered sounds I don't even remember anymore. Apologies, questions, anger, silence. And that's when I felt it. A presence. Small. I turned my head slowly and saw her. A little girl, maybe 6. Jacket too thin, curls wild, gripping a teddy bear like it held her heartbeat. She stood a few feet away from the grave. Looking not at it, but at me. I blinked at her. She said softly, I knew you'd come. He always said you were too good to stay gone. My tears stopped midstream. I managed to mutter, I'm sorry, sweetheart, are you lost? She shook her head and stepped closer. Then she did something that hollowed my soul. She dug into her jacket pocket, pulled out a photo, bruised, folded, and handed it to me. It was me, 5 years younger, holding Daniel by the face and kissing his cheek in the kitchen we built. And in the background, her crib. I stared at that photo like it was a time machine. My face, his arms, and in the background, a baby crib. One I never saw, never bought, never filled. My fingers trembled as I whispered, Where did you get this? The little girl looked up slowly, tightening her grip on the teddy bear. My mommy keeps it, she said, but she said you were the nice lady. The nice lady. Not stepmother, not friend, not stranger. I knelt in front of her, trying to keep my breath steady. My thoughts weren't steady at all. How old are you, sweetheart? 6, she whispered. 6. I ran the math like a calculator with cracked buttons. I had been in prison for 5. She was 6. He said he stopped visiting because it hurt too much. Turns out it was because he had someone else to visit. She tilted her head. Are you my mommy? I swear the cemetery moved around me in that second. I didn't answer, couldn't. Instead, I asked, "Who told you to come here today?" She looked down at her shoes. "Nana said I should say hi to Daddy, because you'd probably come too." Nana, his mother. Of course. Suddenly, everything made sense. His parents stopped speaking to me not long after I got locked up, said I ruined his career, put shame on the family. But all this time, it wasn't just disappointment. It was guilt. It was cover-up. I stood up, phone already in hand. Searched his obituary. It had no mention of me, not as wife, not as ex, not as loving supporter who wore the cuffs for a crime I didn't commit. But it did say, "In memory of a loving father to one beautiful daughter." I scrolled further. A GoFundMe. Photos of him holding her. A woman beside him, older, well-posed, smile wide like she owned what she stole. Marie. He called her our bookkeeper. He once told me she couldn't even remember her passwords. Guess she remembered his. My phone slipped slightly in my hand. But I didn't cry. Because I had already cried the 5 years they celebrated holidays together, took those matching sweatshirts beach photos, while I ate prison food and prayed for mercy. What he didn't know is, I wasn't hopping for freedom. I was hopping for love to survive this. It didn't. He didn't, but I did. The little girl tugged on my shirt. "I'm sorry Daddy lied," she said, so soft it almost didn't land in my bones. I knelt again and touched her arm gently. "It's not your fault, baby." And then she pulled something else from her bear's pouch. A necklace. It had my name on it. "This was in his drawer," she said. "He used to look at it when he thought no one was watching." I took it like it had heat. Because it did. Grief can hurt. But confused grief. That tears into the soul differently. Did he lie and leave me cold? Or did he carry guilt while building a lie he couldn't survive? Either way, I was done asking. And I was just beginning to find the answers myself. I didn't go home. Because I didn't know where home was anymore. The apartment I used to decorate with flowers and scented candles now had someone else's toothbrush. The life I thought I'd walk back into had been rewritten. By Daniel. By Marie. By a daughter I never knew existed. I walked for hours after leaving that cemetery. The necklace swung lightly around my neck, heavy as a crown I didn't ask for. I thought 1,000 things at once. Was she born from a lie? Was I the lie? Was I just the placeholder woman who bought time until the real family stepped in? But there was one thought louder than the rest. I gave everything. And he gave truth to everyone but me. I went to see his mother. She didn't expect me. Her hands trembled as they pulled back the curtain. I didn't scream, didn't throw a shoe through her front window. No need. I just looked at her and said, "He doesn't owe me an apology. But you. You watched me rot in a cell, while your granddaughter learned my name from a photo on a chain." She tore up right into her teacup. I left her with my silence too. See, grief feels different when it's wrapped in truth. Cleaner, quieter, not painless, but clear. I took a week and flew to the coast. Alone. For the first time in 6 years, I booked a hotel without thinking how it would affect someone else's calendar. I didn't owe anyone my presence anymore. And finally, I sat with myself. I pulled up the old photos. The vows. The letters I wrote him during prison. The ones he stopped replying to after year 2. Then I deleted them. Not out of anger, out of honor. Not for what we were, but for who I finally was without him. Before I left the city, I stopped by the cemetery one last time. The little girl wasn't there. But her memory was. I tied the necklace onto his grave. No note. No flowers. Just the name he used to whisper. Returned to the stone that carried it. Then I walked away. No tears, no looking back. He buried the truth. But I buried him properly. In peace. And I finally got to hold the only thing people tried to take from me. Myself. If you've ever loved someone through their pain, if you've ever stood tall for someone who felt too small to fight, then you already know. Sometimes karma isn't a thing that comes later. Sometimes it shows up wearing the same face as the woman he thought he buried. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. Because even in silence, the truth has a voice.